One of the areas that has been of particular interest to me and plays a part in our application is the whole area of education, and particularly PhD studies. I think this is a significant area of weakness in Canada, that we don't have PhD programs, particularly in this area. We've done some work here at Schulich and at York, but I've been particularly interested in building a PhD component to our network. And we have two people here who I've asked to talk very briefly about what they think the possibilities are. I think there's an enormous need and a real possibility. I look forward to a national PhD program in business ethics as one of the projects for CBERN, or certainly for me, insofar as I can do it. But we have to start, and we have to start soon. I think this must be, well, I might be wrong, but I think it's one of the very few projects that's been presented to SSHRC that actually had PhD students as collaborators and co-investigators in it. We disguised them somewhat, but made it clear that they were there. So Kevin McCaig and Erica Wiseman. Erica's from the University of McGill down here, and Kevin's just entered the PhD program here at the Schulich School of Business. So I'd like them to come up and talk very briefly about what they see, what their hopes are for the network.
Thanks very much, everyone. Just want to acknowledge that 8 years ago I was a graduate student looking for some extra money. I put my resume in to be a research assistant, and out of the pile, Wes chose mine in order to work with him. And I'd like to thank you for that, Wes, because it's been a great, and working with you for the last 8 years at least now, on the Voluntary Codes project, and then on this project, and other bits and pieces of work along the way. It's been a great contribution to my career, and perhaps this is a small taste of the potential benefits that other students can get out of CBERN and the network. And I can speak from personal experience that I sure hope that's the case. It's great. There's a great potential there for learning. Wes asked me to think about what are the needs of PhD students and how might the network add value to PhD students and meet those needs. So I just have a few thoughts on that. I think the first thing is just the most simple thing would be to know who else is doing work in this space in Canada. So I think that can be easily accomplished on the website. Reaching out to the universities, finding out who's doing that work, making information available, and making sure that we link to the other international networks of PhD students in this area as well. I know that some things are happening in the States at the Academy of Management, and groups of PhD students in this area in other countries are formed, so it'd be nice to link to those organizations as well. But I think the most important thing for PhD students, it can be a kind of a process that sometimes it's quite solitary. So I think building the connections between people, between colleagues, between fellow PhD students is essential. Getting to know people, getting to know what their areas of interest are, but most importantly, creating these spaces like we had yesterday with the roundtable that Malcolm led for genuine exchange and genuine getting to know each other and some kind of human connection. And I think out of that, whatever support may be needed, for us can emerge, whether it's specific details or or whether it's the more kind of human support that sometimes need during the challenges of a PhD. So I think if CBURN can help create those spaces, maybe gatherings at the ASEC conference in Canada or at the Academy of Management in the States, annual meeting places where Canadian PhDs can gather, learn about each other, develop a relationship which will hopefully grow into, us being future colleagues wherever we may end up. I think that would be very important and could be a role that CBURN can help play.
Thanks, Kevin. And Erica, maybe you could comment as well.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me? There's some eyes going. Lower it.
Down a bit.
A little short. I met Wes last 2 years ago, a year or two ago, and it was at one of my first experiences presenting at an academic conference. And I remember seeing him in the room before I presented, and Wes has a certain aura that he carries with him, and you can get a sense of the type of person he is. And there I was with my notes shaking and reading off my presentation, and it was my first time. I was really nervous. And at the end of it, Wes talked about this group that he was having, and he was inviting the PhD students to come and talk about CBURN and about the opportunities. And I was just so flattered that I was invited back to this meeting, because here I am sitting with my notes shaking, and I was really nervous. And so it was really great. And since then, I've been finding ways to be involved. And when he asked me to think about what are the ways that PhD students can be involved, because of the place that I'm at right now in my thesis, which is about 14 weeks away from submitting. So I'm thinking very much about my next step in my journey. And so a lot of the value that I see for PhD students in this network is sort of what Giselle was talking about earlier today. I guess she stepped out. Is a training space for PhD students. And it's not training in research per se, but training in being an academic, training in connecting with people. And everybody talks about networks and networking with people, and I've often found that challenging to do, particularly in these academic conferences where everybody that you've read their articles are all talking about important stuff all together, and you're just a student. Yet each time that I've been involved in this network, there's something different, qualitatively different about the group of people that are sitting here, or about the way that we've been brought together, that at least for me made me feel very comfortable to stand up here and talk to you guys without my hands shaking. My voice a little bit shaky, but my hands aren't shaking, and that's an improvement for me. And I've been able to make contacts, and that's something that's invaluable for me, because as I start to think about what the next stage of my life is going to be, and I don't know whether that's going to be academic or working in a company perhaps, or NGO, or government. I don't know, but this network is providing a space for me as a PhD student who will hopefully be graduating soon, an opportunity to learn about what any one of these positions might entail, to learn about who are the people that are holding these positions in Canada and outside of Canada, and what are those positions like, and what do these jobs entail, and how can I enter into those fields. I also really value this network because it provides a space where I can take the experience that I have, the academic knowledge that I have, and funnel that when I get out of my thesis. A lot of my research, I'm actually in the School of Information Studies, so while my PhD is on sustainable development, a lot of my training is in knowledge management, and so a lot of my experience and some of the early research that I was doing was on networking and knowledge transfer and knowledge mobilization.